It's been another big day in politics here in Canberra. The swearing in of the new government, David Gazzard, former Liberal advisor from DPG Advisory, and Eamonn Fitzpatrick from Fitzpatrick Advisory, a former long-term Labor advisor, both join me now. Eamonn, first to you. These moments, they are huge moments in the individual careers of the people we're talking about today that have been sworn in, and some of them have waited a long time through really the prime of their careers to get there.
Good afternoon, Kieran. Absolutely. You know, it's such a great day for each and every one of them and for their families and everybody in the Labor movement. Let's not forget, it's been quite a few years. A lot of hard work has taken place in order to get to just where we are. The best part, though, is it is the beginning. As Anthony Albanese keeps saying to everyone, let's stay focused on the outside. Let's not worry about us. Let's just get the job done. Huge agenda. Jim Chalmers has made that clear. Let's just look at the way Penny Wong has accomplished herself already around the South Pacific. And, you know, you look at that front bench lineup, the out of ministry, even the assistant ministers. I've been lucky to work with every single one of these people for the best part of 10 years. And I can tell you, each and every one of them is a pretty high-performing individual who will absolutely take to their jobs immediately, and they'll do it very well.
And David Gazzard today, the economic number was a positive. The Treasurer wanting to say, look, there are real issues, though, headwinds that face us, so not wanting to cheer too strongly that number today.
It's the battle of the clouds, isn't it? You either see it as a black cloud with a silver lining or a silver cloud with a black lining. I think, you know, I mean, the reality is, you know, this happens on both sides of Parliament at the beginning of a new term. You try to pin all the bad stuff on your predecessor, which is what the new Treasurer is doing, even though I think the set of numbers are reasonably good when you look at comparable countries around the world. But there's no doubt there's choppiness in the forecast. There's things coming, particularly from the global economy, that'll be visited on Australia, already being visited on Australia. So, you know, this is why you get elected. You've got to manage that, and that's going to be Jim's job for the next 3 years. But, you know, I know, you know, I sympathise with where he's at, and I'd probably advise him to do the same thing that he's done today if I was in his office. Yeah,
OK. Well, that's a good thumbs up for their approach from the veteran, Mr Gazzard. But Eamonn Fitzpatrick, what's your read on the sort of outlook that Anthony Albanese is giving? If we move away from the economics to the politics, says we want to bring people together, we want consensus, we want to move away from the adversarial politics of recent times. Will that resonate?
I think it already has, and I think in many respects that's what this result at the election was all about. I mean, people, I think, just got really tired of waking up every day and just hearing people mouth off and hearing a government on the attack every single day with, most of the time, very little action to have backed it up. I think the South Pacific is a great example of that. Just the contrast there of Peter Dutton, Scott Morrison, and everyone else talking up, you know, war and conflict with China, yet the foreign minister stayed here and they gifted the South Pacific to China as a strategic advantage in just a few days. Look at the contrast. Look at Penny Wong, quiet, out there, dignified, gets the job done, has already taken the first step to curtailing some of that influence and putting our relationship back on track because she's hitting the right notes. And I think that's just an example. It's all about how you conduct yourself. At home, exactly what Albanese is talking about, consensus, the job summit, how we find a solution on power prices. They will be a very inclusive government, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. In fact, I would just reference what happened in Queensland to Campbell Newman, who came in and out in one term, because people got tired very quickly of that style of government. You know, people vote you in to get the job done. They don't get you in. They don't vote you in to indulge you in your sense of theatre.
David Gazzard, for Peter Dutton now, it is a long road ahead because it's not just the 77 Labor seats. You've got all the Teals as well. They're only in the mid to, I think, 57 seats from memory. So it's a long road to get back to government. What does he need to do day in, day out? It's a slog, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, you know, you really have to sort of approach the next term as, you know, you do as a campaigner if you're looking at it in political terms, and that is to lock in your base and reach out to swingers and try to bring them along. I mean, I agree with Eamonn in what he's saying. I think, you know, a new term of government is a time where you can work to bring together people and you've got a mandate to govern. But, you know, the problems that you face as a government are significant and you know, you're seeing that already with gas prices, for instance, where, you know, the government has difficult decisions about whether or not it pulls the trigger or whether it expands the exploration and the extraction of gas to meet the demands of the economy in a transition phase. So all of those things are difficult and you've got to manage them. So over the first term, the second term, the third term, as you've seen the previous government, they accreted enemies. They put people offside, as you almost have to do in any government. So there will be difficult things that this government has to face. No doubt the opposition will be pursuing them as their supporters expect them to do, to keep faith with where they're at. So you know, I think that's where the opposition leader will go. But he'll be looking to target his base first and gradually reach out to swinging voters wherever they are.
So lock in that and build from there. Your friend Scott Morrison, now 10 days on, how's he dealing with it all now? Look,
I you know, there's obviously a sense of you know, sadness or, you know, disappointment over the result. But I do think the demands of modern government are ever increasing. It is. I had the good fortune in the 90s to work for John Howard, and I would say you pack in more, you know, per day now than prime ministers have faced previously. So, you know, I think there's a sense of achievement about coming through the global pandemic, leaving the country in relatively good shape. You know, even though the country faced difficulties with the supply of vaccines and so on and so forth, there's a sense of achievement around some of those key large, the big figures, the really strong numbers that were bequeathed to this government. So
he's still at Kirribilli House. What's happening there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I noticed a piece you did earlier, and I think it's been gracious of the new Prime Minister to extend him the opportunity to stay there. There's no real secret to it. He's just getting his house in the Shire repainted. The poor guy hasn't really had a day off for the last 3 years, so he's doing some much needed renovation on the interior of the house so he can move into it.
Okay, well, there we have it. The scoop. He's got the Dulux being done at his old place. Eamonn Fitzpatrick, finally to you. One thing I think that is a benefit for Anthony Albanese is the fact that he comes in with low expectations among many voters. He had a bit of a rocky time during the campaign, the odd gaffe and so on. So it's the benefit of low expectations in politics. You don't want to come in with stratospheric expectations because we've seen how that ends.
Well, Kieran, look, that is a good point, but I would say this. Look, having worked for leaders as well, you know, leaders are made in the job. You can be the best opposition leader, if you like, and you can win an election, but as soon as you become Prime Minister or Premier, it's a different ballgame. You're judged very differently, and every leader becomes that leader. Their leadership is defined whilst they're in the job. So, and I think these days, you know, it's hard to say nobody knew the PM because he was a senior minister for a long time. He's definitely very known right across the business community. He's got a huge reputation there and on other fronts. But I think leaders are made in the job, and I think we're going to see a lot of good things from this Prime Minister and his team.
Eamonn Fitzpatrick from Fitzpatrick Advisory. David Gazzard from DPG Advisory. Gentlemen, very much appreciate it.